Listen, one of my main topics today is the bait and switch that appears to have taken place between DAZN and you got to sprinkle in Turkey Al-Rashid there because if you recall, Dave, Turkey Al-Rashid said on television, it was on one of these big fights, that there'll be no more pay-per-views beginning in November. And then sure as shit, DAZN announces their new ultimate package, $45 a month, $44.99. Which guarantees more than 185 fight cards a year and 12 or more pay-per-views a year. That's not telling me there's no more pay-per-views. What's your thought on that? Is it do you think it was planned that way all along, or is it just, fleecing boxing fans continuously?
I think one thing about the zone prior to this whole thing with Turkey Al-Sheikh, they're a big platform. They're showing a lot of boxing. They're global. So they're showing more boxing in Europe and overseas than we actually see. But the hardcore fans are really watching in with that. So I think, Eddie Hearn being the businessman that he is, he's got more of a platform with it out there. So I think he's being driven more for overseas area, that England market, London out there, where he has a bigger foothold in the boxing. I also think it goes for people want to be able to use that app on their phone, so they got to buy into it. They seem to be like the hardcore boxing fans could watch boxing 4 or 5 times a week. I just think that he is got a little more of a stronghold than what Turk Al-Sheikh tried to prove coming in, and I think he just kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit, Turkey Al-Sheikh, with those statements that there's going to be no more pay-per-views. There's too much money and too much money involved, Philly, right? Like, if you really think about it, I know from our end, we're constantly paying for boxing, right? Constantly, because we want to watch it over and over again. But these guys are making too much money on the pay-per-view to let it slide.
Yeah, but a lot of them don't. That's the whole thing. I saw a post. First of all, look, I know this from my own experience with this very show, but people have a tendency, especially when things are streamed, okay, that they don't want to pay for it. It's not about the money. I've heard people say, "Oh well, if the pay-per-views were $20, we wouldn't have a problem doing it." I don't know. I think that people wouldn't have a problem paying a subscription, right? A service, but get all the fights. Not pay for a service and then not get the fights. In this case, the zone went the back end. They went through the back door because we were already paying a subscription, and then we were told that we weren't going to get pay-per-views anymore. Now we're getting a raised subscription, and they're saying it includes pay-per-views. So, in other words, if they didn't use the word pay-per-view and they said, okay, our monthly price now is going to be, $45 or whatever, it includes all the fights. I think that would have been a better marketing approach than saying it's going to be $45 a month now, and that's going to include 12 or more pay-per-views.
Yeah, I just, you know what? It's just, it comes down. I know where you're going with it. I agree. I mean, if I know I'm going to pay one price and get all the fights, yeah, I'm in. But if I'm going to get nickel-dimed every other time, because as well as I do, some of those pay-per-views, they're not worth all of it. You get get 2 fights a year, the mega fights that you want to see. But I kind of agree with you there. I want one pricing because, I'm watching boxing as much as I can. And now that it's not on mainstream, ESPN dropped it. We're not going to see Top Rank on ESPN. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, we need to be able to have, an affordable app to watch it.
I think that the zone, first of all, I want to just make a comment. Dax made a comment here in the chat room. He says, we were buying $50 pay-per-views in the 80s for Tyson mismatches. At some point, it's the fans that are allowing this. And Dax hit it right on the head, because I've been saying for 15 years that all the fans have to do is say, no, don't do it. Don't subscribe. Don't buy the pay-per-views. All they have to do is say no and do that for a couple of fights, and it'll be revamped. Let's face it, the fights that we do have to pay for aren't even worth pay-per-view. I just believe, first of all, the zone, I think, is a great thing. It really brings all level of fight cards to everybody on the planet that has a
Right.
computer. I love it. It's the future is now. The networks can't compete, especially how they do the zone and the production. How it could be subbed out. I mean, it's not all the zone people doing it for every event. So it's a great concept and it's a great model. But this latest thing is they shot themselves in the foot. I think the term, and hear what I'm saying, Dave. I think the term pay-per-view should have been eliminated. In other words, they could have said, "Hey, listen, we got starting January, we got our new subscription. It's $45 a month. It's going to cover every fight that we have on the zone." Bam. Not, hey, it's going to cover all the regular schmuck fights, and then all of a sudden we're going to have sprinkle in a dozen pay-per-views. No, it shouldn't be pay-per-view. So that's where I think they might have made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you, but the zone also, they're trying to lure you into their platform with soccer and all the other sports that they do, and through boxing. And, you know, I guess Turkey Al-Sheikh still wants to keep his hands dipped somehow in this, um, because I guess he's still looking to put these big fights together. But from the platform end of the zone, they could have worded it where it was like one price for all on the boxing end of it. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that they want you to watch all the sports, but boxing fans are a different breed. I mean, I watch some other sports. I'm aside from boxing, I'm football and baseball. But most football, baseball, boxing, or football, baseball, basketball, hockey fans, a lot of them don't watch boxing, and a lot of boxing fans don't watch other sports. So I mean, it's kind of crazy, but
But real quick on that, Billy, what are your thoughts on this? So you made a comment of most fans don't watch boxing. The hardcore fans like us, we'll watch it wherever we can get a chance. We go back to years ago. There's no mainstream to get the other fans anymore. There's no CBS. There's no NBC. There's no ABC. There's no more ESPN now, or even HBO or Showtime, where you were able to watch a big fight if you had the subscription. You didn't have to go for the pay per view.
yeah,
Or
but Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you, but TV's cut the cord. I mean,
yeah,
that's the whole movement. There is no more CBS the way we knew it. Yeah,
right.
CBS airs, the football games and stuff, basketball, et cetera, et cetera. But there's no more network like that. It's unlimited. It's just content now. So the whole terminology is changing, and the way the marketing people are doing it, they are focusing. Listen, you can ask. Dax is in this chat room right now. My man, Coach K. They've been part of the show for a long time, and you could go back and watch a show from 15 years ago that we did, even more. And I'm telling you, and Dax will back me up. I predicted on this show that you'd be able to select the sports that you wanted to watch and pay for it, right? Like when computers were coming out and
Right.
internet was streaming. And that's in a sense what it has evolved into. And it's going to be even more fine-tuned over the next several years. So, it's making the right fights is the start. But who determines what the right fights are? What, when you get a guy all the way up, you build him up to 30-0, and he's fought nobody for 30 fights, and now he fights the other guy for 30. If you want a solid boxing pool of fighters, you need to challenge them sooner. That's all.
Yeah, listen, you and I have talked about this. I'm on the same page as you there. For me, there comes a time that you got to cut the umbilical cord for a fighter and say, it's time to sink or swim. What do we got here? What do we got? Because if you're going to challenge to be in that championship level at some point, you need to know, not only as a fighter, but the team around him, management need to know if you belong there.
Hey, Dave, I got an interesting thing. One of my listeners, my man Joel, was asking me last week about the FBI investigations into the fight fixing for the UFC, and I know you're into MMA a lot more than me, but one thing I do, I'm jumping all over the place here. One thing I do want to just close my opinion on is the DAZN and Turkey Al-Sheet situation. Look, in a way, it's unfair to kind of package Turkey Al-Sheet in this. He doesn't own DAZN. The problem is that he made the statement that there was going to be no more pay-per-views. And like I was saying to Coach Dave before, I think that if they thought the verbiage out correctly and did not and stopped using the word pay-per-view and packaged it in with DAZN, our new subscription includes all the fights type of a thing, I don't think the backlash would have been as severe as they're receiving now. I mean, I'm getting emails and social media posts saying, they're canceling, they're not doing it. Here's the problem. They're the only game in town, boys and girls. I mean, DAZN is where it's at. If you like boxing, I mean, look, if you love to watch boxing and you want to see it live and you want to see it all, and you want to see it, basically unfold the way it should, DAZN is where it's at. I should be getting paid for this promotion, but it's just the truth. And you want to unify. You want to bring in the fans, not chase them away. I think their marketing department definitely made an error with that one. But